So, perfectionism, right? Perfectionism versus procrastination, or I'll say perfectionism and procrastination can go hand in hand. So, how can chasing perfectionism lead to us basically not getting anything done, right? First things first, no one is perfect. Nothing is perfect. No one is perfect, okay? Um, in nature, what makes things beautiful and unique are their imperfections. I'm using quote unquote imperfections, like let's say flowers, right? Flowers are not all the same. You get a bouquet of roses. You look at those roses, they're not filled with a carbon copy of one rose, right? I mean, yeah, you can do it with I would say unnatural measures, but you can do you can do it. But in nature, you pick you some roses, they're gonna be different sizes, different richness of color. They're not gonna be all the same, right? We may strive, we may all strive for excellence in some way, but sometimes that pursuit of perfection can become a double-edged sword. So perfectionism, while often seen as a noble pursuit, can actually be a major roadblock to productivity and can lead to procrastination. Here's a look at how perfectionism can derail our progress, and a surprising tip to help us embrace progress over perfection. So the perils of perfectionism. So perfectionism is that drive. It's the drive to make everything flawless and without flaw, right? It might sound good on paper, after all, who doesn't want their work to be, perfect, top notch. However, in the real world, working in companies, working in businesses, or being a subcontractor with the government, or having your own business, even people at those higher levels, right? The people that are funding you, the people that give you grants or contracts, whatever it is, whatever industry you're in, they are prone to error too, right? Even at the higher levels, they're prone to error too, right? So just realizing, we have to realize how perfectionism, it often brings more trouble with it than it's worth. Here's how perfectionism contributes to procrastination. One, you have a fear of failure, right? And it leads to you never starting. When you aim for perfection, that fear of not meeting those high standards can be paralyzing, which can lead you to being stagnant. And this fear can make you avoid starting tasks altogether, and that leads to procrastination. Going the perfectionist route, you tend to overthink and over edit, and that takes you like YouTube channels, right? Like YouTube, if you're like, I'm going to make this perfect, think about how many times you have to film a video without how many times you have to film a video because you made an error, or you said or this or that or whatever, whatever may have happened. Think about the hours that it'll take for you to edit that video. Of course, we want our content to be a reflection of the quality that we want to add to the community on YouTube. Of course, we want it to be, of good quality. But just think, if you're like, it has to be perfect, it has to be this way, you're going to spend endless amount of times in that over editing phase, in that overthinking phase. And then boom, what happens when you don't get the views and the time that you spent doing all this work? It's not reflected in that immediate view count or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it leads to obsessing. Perfectionism leads to obsessing about every single detail. You're tweaking and reworking and retweaking your work endlessly. And this overthinking can stall your progress and keep you from finishing tasks. Being a perfectionist sets unrealistic standards. Like you're setting impossibly high standards that can lead to frustration and a sense of defeat when those standards aren't met, which causes you to put off tasks or abandon them altogether. So instead of perfectionism, what if we embrace progress over perfection, right? So perfectionism, whereas perfectionism might be setting you up for failure, progress is always within our reach. That sounds like a good quote, right? It sounds like something I should throw on a t-shirt or something. Perfectionism might be setting you up for failure, but progress is always within reach. Embracing the idea of progress over perfection can be a game changer for overcoming procrastination and achieving your goals. A tip to getting out of that perfectionist mind state to like, okay, I'm just going to focus on progress, is something called the good enough principle, right? And a description of this good enough principle is all about letting go of the need for absolute perfection and instead focusing on getting things done to a satisfactory level. And this doesn't mean poor quality. It doesn't mean producing something that's not reflective of you, not how you want to show up in the world. It doesn't mean just slapping something together and just being like, you know what, whatever. Sometimes it may mean that, but not all the time. Excuse me. So how do we apply this good enough principle? Set realistic standards. So define what good enough means for you, for the task that you have at hand. And instead of striving for an unattainable level of perfection, determine what constitutes a completed satisfactory job, right? And the thing about this too, when you start let's say completing tasks, right, you'll naturally get better at them, right? So if it's like, boom, I'm going to record a video. Say if I've never recorded a video before, naturally as I'm recording more videos, the time it takes for me to do them gets shorter, right? The quality of work gets better. My presence on camera gets better. Creating a realistic standard is a flexible thing. It doesn't have to stay the same all the time. And yeah, so instead of striving for, just something being super perfect, have you a definition, or not definition, but some type of scope where it's like, okay, if I just do this, this will be good enough. And then you implement a time limit. So you allocate a specific amount of time to work on this task. When the time is up, accept that the time is up, and accept that it's time to move on, even if the task isn't perfect. So like with the Pomodoro technique, like, okay, boom, that's a 25-minute interval. If I know that I can do a task within 25 minutes and I do it, and it's like, okay, it's not perfect, but it's done, that's better than it not being done, and I know, like, okay, well, just take a, quick assessment, like take a little quick assessment, like, okay, what can I do in the future, and use that to fuel your to help you build your skills and help you to, craft and refine. That way you'll get better as you go, right? So, excuse me. Yeah, you allocate that specific time. The time is up. When the time is up, accept it for what it is and move on. Celebrate, the fact that you finished the task, even if it's not perfect. You got to recognize that completing a task in and of itself is an achievement, right? Because we got these goals, we got these big goals, and we got these tasks that we got to do in order to get to the goal. When you focus on progress over perfection, it reduces your feeling of being overwhelmed. By aiming for like good enough, you can reduce the stress and anxiety associated with perfectionism. Focusing on progress increases your productivity. Accepting that everything needs to be perfect, accepting that not everything needs to be perfect, allows you to complete more tasks and make steady progress. Oh man. Okay, look, progress over perfectionism. This is my first day of filming content in a long time, and so it's like I'm like 10 videos in. I'm off of a cold. I was sick like these past 2 weeks, so it's like, yo, I don't look. I'm getting these videos out, okay? So y'all bear with me, and if you like the videos, please do consider please do subscribe. I appreciate it. So yeah, accepting that not everything needs to be perfect allows you to complete more tasks and make steady progress and move on to bigger and better things. So perfectionism is a sneaky little source of procrastination, which keeps us stuck in this cycle of overthinking and avoidance. And by adopting something such as the good enough principle, you can shift your focus from unattainable perfection to practical progress. And by embracing like this approach or other approaches will help you to get things done, move forward, and make meaningful strides towards your progress. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress and celebrating your journey along the way.